a very successful company here in Oklahoma City. And so thank you for being here with us.
You're sure welcome.
Yeah.
Happy to be here with you guys.
Yeah.
Hi. Thank you.
So to start off, tell us, we all have a beginning start.
Yeah, so beginning of Drakewell or beginning of Shane?
Beginning of Shane. We want the good stuff today.
Well, I was born in this, no, I'm not going to go. So my career really started around the time of the .com bubble, I guess, when everything was going in '95. I started working for a telecom company, a growing startup telecom company. I was employee number 4. We grew to 250. It was during that big bubble of all these fast growth companies. You had the AOLs and the Yahoos and all that during that time. And so that was around '97. I really got my career started in technology with that kind of thing. The .com bust happened, 2001 happened, people flew planes into buildings and everything crashed. And so that company that I was working for, that I had high hopes for, of being part of the big dream of growing companies and becoming rich and doing all that fun stuff, all went to nothing as they went bankrupt and everything went downhill from there. So I pulled myself up from bootstraps, started my own little consulting company, and went from there, and then grew and found a team that I wanted to work with. That was at phase 2. Found those folks, found a gentleman named Heath Clinton, which is how I met you.
That's right.
It's through that connection. And we've been working together for about 16 years. Out of that company, we actually grew and started a company called Drakewell, which is a software company in oil and gas. So we acquired some clients, acquired a client from one of my buddies. He was working in the oil and gas field service space, and we grew that from just acquiring clients over the years to a SaaS-based business, and that's what we're working on growing and making as much of an impact in the oil and gas space as we possibly can.
So tell us about Drakewell and your vision for it.
Sure. So if you know anything about the oil and gas space, especially in the field service space and how a well gets drilled, completed, into production, it's a rough industry. There's a tremendous amount of dynamism that happens in the industry, from the equipment you use to the people you send out, and it is incredibly sparse in terms of the technology that's available to the folks out there. I had a buddy that worked at Chesapeake. He was a VP of IT, and he said, we are a $13 billion company that's run on spreadsheets and phone calls. And so you can kind of get a sense of, from these very big companies that work on spreadsheets to capture data, that floors of data scientists are tinkering with spreadsheets to get at the data that they need and fine-tuning it and going through cell by cell and changing data, to the smaller field service companies, the lack of technology solutions in the space to do all the cool things that we see in other industries. So you saw Amazon revolutionize logistics with data and telling you where your package is going to be, and now they're taking pictures of it. Those kind of things, those kind of solutions for oil and gas, a $1 trillion industry, one of the industries in our world, right? One of the things that powers everything our civilization does, has incredible technology in terms of equipment, hard technology, but in terms of software, it's lacking. So we set out to build a piece of software, build a solution, build a platform and an ecosystem at the very base level, where the data starts, which is in the field with the guys who have their steel-toed boots on, are getting their hands dirty, because that's where the data starts. That's where the decisions are made that will cost, or will make or cost, millions of dollars a day up the chain. We set out to build solutions for those folks, because those are the people who we can make better, smarter, faster. The kind of the interesting thing about that is, if you do build data there and you do gather data there and you go through all the trials of trying to make a beautiful user experience for folks that don't care about user experience, but you know that will get them over a hump, if you do that, you start to build a data in an ecosystem and up a chain that has better data quality, more thorough data that you can do machine learning on in a way that nobody else in the entire world can do. And so that's kind of where we started and where we've been building from.
So let's take that apart just a little bit, because as entrepreneurs, we see a need.
Yeah,
We
sure.
say, I can do something about that need. I think I have the skill. I think I have the product. So you had the skill and the product, but how did you go about validating that and then selling an idea?
Right, right. So that is a very good question, because that is one of the biggest hurdles with anything. When you're trying to make something from nothing, actually making the first something is the very hardest thing to do. So we were fortunate in a couple ways, and I feel very fortunate in all this. One, we had a platform company. We had a company that made software. That's kind of our baseline company. We have engineers, things like that. So our first validation actually came directly from the market. So our first version of the software, our first tackling of it, was directly for a customer in the space where we could validate every day, all day, was this working for you? And one of the things that's difficult about starting that is how do you get money? How do you spend the time? Well, they paid us, and they paid us to build this for them as an original version. That was how we actually got started with this whole idea. And doing that, getting someone to give you $1 for the thing, $1 for the idea, $1 to start building something is incredibly difficult. You got to do a lot of puppets and hand waving and please trust me and I'll totally do this for you and all that. At phase 2, we have a history of doing that. That's what we do for a living with that company is sell hand puppets and trust. But that's what we had to do for the very first thing, is sell hand puppets and trust to get $1 to start building this thing.
Yeah, so I think our hashtag for Startup Grind tonight will be hashtag puppet hands, right? And I think that's important, because I think when you're starting out, that's what you feel like you're doing.
You are. You have nothing.
You have nothing.
Right.
But for you to sit here and say, like, it's okay to have nothing except your hand puppets.
Yeah.
That's really encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the community.
And a lot of times that first, the sooner you can build trust, the faster you can build trust, the better. So the first thing can't be, okay, here's a finished product. The first thing you deliver to people, especially if you have no experience maybe in a space, the first thing you have to deliver is something that builds trust. Something that says, oh, you trusted me with $1,000. Well, your $1,000 delivered X, and you better bust your tail to make that $1,000 value worth $2,000 to these people. And that's really the trick, is start small, start with something, start with a prototype, start anything you have that can build trust, that makes the hand puppets and the future and the vision and all this. Ideas are cheap. Ideas are almost nearly worthless. Right? You can't go sell an idea. You sell yourself. At the very least, the thing that people buy is you. They buy trust in you. And the easier you make that for people to trust you, the easier it is for people to say, hey, you're not just an idiot. You're somebody with an idea, right, but an idea that I believe you can execute on. That's really really a big thing. The belief. That's it.
It takes a lot of effort to get that belief.
Absolutely.
So you've done the work and you start to get that belief in Drakewell. Then tell us about 2015.
Yeah, sure. So if you don't know, 2015 started the biggest crash in the oil and gas market that the oil and gas market has ever seen. So it went from $110 a barrel. Everybody had money to spend. People were losing $10 million worth of assets for fun, right? It's just like, oh, whatever, I'll write that off, it doesn't matter. To the biggest crash that's ever happened, where oil dropped into the 20s. People were closing companies left and right. The money dried up. Our sales pipeline dried up instantaneously. We had a beautiful sales pipeline. We had a product that was working. We had something out there in the market. We were flying down to Houston. We were flying up to Calgary. We were going all over the place. And everything stopped. And everything ground to a halt. Everybody got scared at a fear of what would happen next. Everybody thought, this is the last bust. It's over. We're going to have to do something else. And that's what happened, and it was awful.
So how did your team and how did you and your family, how did you ride that out? Like, you had this great build-up. And I think we talk about that in Startup Grind a lot, about the roller coaster life.
Sure, yeah.
And now looking back 4 years, how did you maintain sanity and belief in what you were doing to ride it out?
I think part of whatever we all do is we're probably just masochists. We're probably just awful masochists, and we just like this pain or something like that. I don't know a better way to describe it other than you just got to find a way to suck it up. You got to not quit. You got to look at your kids in the eyes or whatever and say, all right, I'm gonna take a deep breath. I'm gonna have a day where I just eat chocolate and do whatever and feel awful about yourself. You binge watch Netflix for a day and don't get out of your pajamas, and then you get up and you either say, am I gonna quit? Is this what I do? Are we gonna give up today? Is today the day we give up? And if you say, oh, all right, maybe not. We'll save giving up for tomorrow, and we'll keep trying, and we'll try to do this again. And so we cut all the resources back. Fortunately, we were able to redeploy folks. We didn't have to fire anybody, which again, I can't stress how fortunate we feel in that we were able to redeploy, but we had to cut back, and you have to give up at least one part of your dreams for a day. Yeah. And that's maybe the hardest thing to do, is you say, this dream, this thing I'm striving for, this thing I've been working to build has to wait for today. We have to give up today's dream to survive and grind and get up, and we'll find a way.
Yeah, we'll find a way. So let's talk about that. You and I had a great conversation about, as entrepreneurs, is what we're doing a business or a hobby?
Right. No,
because that kind of leads into, can I continue? Can I fight through it?
Sure.
Or do I need to take a really good look in the mirror and say, I love this,
right,
but it's not a business? How do you decipher, especially, we're all very passionate about what we believe in and what we do. Absolutely.
And it really does come back to what's the value of an idea. And there's a lot of great ideas. There's tons of great ideas, but businesses are not art, and businesses are not hobbies. Businesses have to be able to make money. There has to be a model that at some point somebody's paying you money for. There has to be somebody that is willing to give you $1 or $2 or $20,000 or whatever. And if you can't find those people, and you spend most of your time building business models or prototypes, and no one pays you money, then or you're not even trying to see if somebody will pay you money, then you do. You have a hobby, or you're practicing an art, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But recognize it. Recognize that dream is for the sake of pleasure, not making money. Businesses are, you have to make money. That is what a business is. That's what being an entrepreneur is. If you want to be an artist or be a hobbyist, there are wonderful things that come out of that. Or be an academic. There are wonderful things. There are beautiful things that come out of art. Art's one of the gifts of humanity, right? And being a professor or being an academic is a wonderful thing, but business is not philosophy, and it is not art, and it is not a hobby, and it has to make money. And both the glorious thing about business and the thing that will tear you apart is the finance part. That's the game we're playing. We're playing, can this make money? Can I build the wealth of myself and my team? Can I make enough money for this to make sense? And there are two types of businesses even, right? Once you get into, okay, this is a real business, somebody will actually pay me money for this. Is it a growth business, or is it a lifestyle business? And that's another decision you'll make as soon as you start making money, is, do I want to grow this thing? Do I want to make big money and try it and roll the dice in a big way? Or am I going to slow play this and slow burn it and make a little bit of money and do it? Then that's a perfectly fine thing to do. Both of those are great things, but you have to decide that. But if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to make money. It is about, at the end of the day, it is about dollars that are bigger than what you spend.
So let's kind of go into that, because I think you can bring a lot of insight, because I think if if we panel, 10 entrepreneurs and we say, what do you need? They'd all say, need money.
Right.
I just need investors, and then all my problems will be fixed, and it'll be great. And so, yeah, we need money. And so let's talk about capital and fundraising. And how do you, what is your advice to those who are like, if I could just find that angel investor out there.
Right.
Right. And so can you give us some really strategic moves to take our business, find capital, but even fundraise?
Sure.
Those are two different things.
So one of the best places to fundraise, especially early on, is from a customer that's willing to pay you money. If you don't have that, you haven't proved any model. And I would absolutely, before you go look for angel investors or capital or whatever, at least have, if you're not an experienced entrepreneur, if you're an experienced entrepreneur or you have the patent on something and you need capital commercialized, there's different types of businesses, right? There's different things that you can put together. If you have an experienced group of entrepreneurs and you have certain technologies that they have in place or whatever, then okay, go get big capital and grow it. But if you have a brand new idea and it's a small thing, then you need to earn $1 or some dollars from a customer, from somebody who's going to use your product and is willing to pay for it. That makes the absolute most sense. And as long as you can do that and build that revenue, then the better position you're going to be in when you go to an investor, whether it's an angel investor or professional money. So let me dig into that a little bit. Yeah. Angel investment is not professional money. Angels might give you money for an idea, or they might give you money to kickstart something, or they might give you money because they like the color of your shoes, or they like who you are, or they know your dad, or whatever. An angel investor makes decisions based on much more on emotion than on anything else. Or whether they like you or whether they're excited about this. Professional money is a whole different story. They're going to make decisions based on profitability. They're going to try to get the best deal. They're going to try to put you in a position where you're working 80-hour weeks to earn them money. That's what they're doing. That's their purpose. Right. That's what they do. And so if you're willing to do that and you're willing to take that and you're in a spot where you can command some type of control of your life, then you're in a good spot. If you're not, and you've got something that somebody wants, then they're going to command a significant portion of the control of your life, and that can suck.
Yeah, I mean, so you're mainly looking at, for this amount of money you'll give me, am I willing to give you this amount of my life?
Yeah,
not just
it.
this
it's
amount of my business,
but
this amount of my life.
That's absolutely
And I think that's what I'm hearing the difference is.
It is. You can't think about it, okay, I'm going to sell this much and you're going to get this portion of my company. You're going to get this portion of my life. You're going to have a part of the decision of whether I go to my kid's soccer game or whether I go on vacation. That's what you're giving. That's the price you're paying for that capital. And what you hope is that capital is both strategic and lucrative, right? That they give you money and strategic value, or they bring something to the table other than dollars. And I know, and it is incredibly tempting to just say, all I need is money, but that's not all you need. There's a lot of money out there, tons of money. There's money everywhere. There's money in customers' hands, right? There's money for your product. There's money's out there. And not easy, right? And probably not at the value you think your idea or your prototype or your company or your product is, because that's not why people invest. They invest at this to get this. But it's not money that you're getting, and it's not money that you want. You definitely want capital, you want growth capital, you want all that, but you want growth. You want the ability to grow is what you're actually asking for. You're not asking for money. You're asking for the things that free up growth. And if that comes in the form of your biggest lead and your biggest customer, and that's what it comes in, then that's better than money. And if it comes in that plus money, then okay, that's okay. But you are selling yourself. You're selling something of yourself to somebody else that will then have control of parts of your life. Yeah,
that's really good, and that's really true, because I think in the the roller coaster of being an entrepreneur in those panic moments, it's money can fix everything.
Yep.
And sometimes it's, looking at our customers differently,
Absolutely.
looking at our product differently, or just taking a step back from our own pride and saying, okay, I need hope.
Yeah.
So, which leads me to, you have actually been doing this with 2 other founders with Drakewell.
That's right.
And I think that's interesting because we see a lot of times in small businesses as, great ideas, people come together and they become founders.
Yep.
But there's more to it than that, right? Because you've been with these founders for 16, 17 years.
Yeah.
You must really like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I trust them. I trust them. Some days you don't like each other, and that's okay. But you need to trust the people you're doing business with. And I liken it to getting married. So if you're about to get together and say, we're going to found this company together, you are getting married, right?
Objection, please. You said something, I think you meant you need to have people you can trust.
You do.
Not you need to trust them.
No, that's great. That's a great clarification. So you said you need to have people that you can trust, not that you just trust people. That's a great clarification. It can be, depending on your personality, it can be easy to trust somebody, but founding something and going together to build a business, you're spending probably as much time or more time than you are with your family, your spouse, your whatever, that you are putting pieces of your life and your dreams in the hands of these people. And it's very similar to putting the pieces of your life. You sign contracts, you are legally bound to each other, you can get really sideways and things can go really nasty and wrong. You can end up, and I've heard dozens of stories from buddies and folks that things go wrong, is that I have never hated somebody more than this guy that I founded this thing with, and we got sideways, and that sucks to carry all that hate because you didn't find somebody you could actually trust at the end of the day to have everybody's best interest in mind. Trust is not built in a day. You don't go say, hey, I met this guy the other day and we're going to found this company. Man, you might get lucky, but if you don't know people for a while, it's hard to, I wouldn't marry somebody the next day after I met them.
Right.
And I really encourage folks to think about that if I'm going to found something together, then think about it as you're committing your life to them, because you really are. And you can get out and you can have clauses and all the things legally, but you're putting a lot of yourself into this deal, and whether things go good or bad, it's always possible for things to go sideways. So that deep-rooted trust is, you have to get a little lucky, and you have to really spend your time to believe in these people that you're working together with. And I would have a difficult time, and it's the same with taking capital, taking money, because you're doing the same thing.
Right.
You're having somebody that is now part of your company in whatever form or fashion that you signed those deals.
Right, and how do you keep, so when you are a founding group, how do you keep your eyes, all three, on a vision? Right. Because you can't have 3 different visions and run a successful company.
You got to fight sometimes. You just got to fight.
Fight it out.
You got to fight it out. You got to work together, and you have to trust people. I keep going back to that. You have to trust, but you also kind of, in some ways, have to get out of your own way. You need to not think you're just the baddest ass. You're the smartest one in the room. You're the one that knows. It's tempting to think that, right? It is almost never. You almost never go into an argument thinking you're the one that's wrong, right?
No, because you would definitely not go into that.
Definitely don't do that. No. And sometimes there's a hard look in the mirror and say, okay, I do believe I'm right. I think this is the right thing to do, but this relationship, this partnership, this thing we're doing together is more important. I'm going to I'm going to stick to my lane. I'm going to stick to what my job is, and I'm not going to be a dick, and I'm not going to resent this person for being wrong or having an opinion of what we do that's different than mine. That's a huge part of it. You got to leave some of your ego at the door. that's where a lot of founders really get sideways, is you come in and you think you're right, you get out of your lane, and you never find your way back in it.
Yeah, that's true. So we've talked about how you can, give your life to investors, to your founders, other founders. So both of you and I are both parents and run companies. How do you keep that balance between, we were just talking before we started about getting our kids to school this week, and his kids, have Meet the Teacher. I came from Meet the Teacher. And so how do you keep that balance and that, I don't even know if it's balance, actually.
It's probably
I don't even think that's the word.
No.
But how do you just keep the scale from tipping?
It's an everyday thing, especially when you've had just a terrible day, right? And you've gotten kicked, and you got kicked while you're getting kicked, and you're coming home and you've got nothing. You've got no energy. I'm sure you guys have all had this. You're coming home, you've got no energy, you've got no wins. You haven't had a win in 3 weeks, and you're coming home and you've got to find a way not to be a butthole. You've got to find a way to have enough energy to play with your kids, or to look them in the eye and not feel like you're giving up, right? And not give up. You've got to be that, right? And some of it's just about tricking yourself. It's just about, okay, some of it's about driving around the neighborhood 3 times, or going to work out. Everybody's got a different thing. Whatever your thing is, you got to find something that gives you joy, and you got to have some way to pull yourself out of the muck and get a little perspective on life, where you're like, this isn't. So what if I lose everything? What if everything goes away? What if all this goes to nothing? What if X years of my life are for nothing? Then you got to find a way to say, all right, well, what if? What would happen? What would I do? Am I going to give up? Am I going to not be dad? Am I not gonna try to get up tomorrow? What am I going to do? And having a little perspective that it's not the end of the world. You're not dead.
Right.
You didn't die. You don't have Mongol raiders busting down your door, attacking your kids. I like history a lot, and so sometimes I went through this period. I'm going to give you a little insight into my brain, which is terrifying sometimes. I went through this period in one of those dark times, right, where I went full dark, and I just listened to like 3 audiobooks on the Mongol Empire, and just awful stuff. It's terrifying.
Yeah, that's
stuff,
a dark
right?
place to be.
Dark place. But by going full dark, it gives you some perspective. It's okay, well, I live in wonderful state, beautiful country. I have food to eat today. I have a home to go to. I have a family that loves me. So what really is wrong today? Okay, so I got kicked. So we lost a customer. So one of our biggest customer that we had went bankrupt, and we lost X big fat bunch of revenue every month, and now we're going to have to find a way to survive. Okay, well, what if we don't? Am I going to be okay? Well, yeah, you're going to be fine. You're going to eat tomorrow. You're going to have a car probably. Maybe you won't. I don't know. You're going to be fine. You're
going to be okay. That's really good. So you've been here in Oklahoma City for a while.
Yeah.
So let's really talk about.
I don't know if I want to know. I don't know if I want to calculate that. It's been a while.
For a while. So let's really talk about Oklahoma City, though, and doing business in Oklahoma City. What do you think is the best attributes about doing business here in Oklahoma City?
That's a good question. So stuff like this is fantastic. When I came to Oklahoma City, this was 95. There
you go. We pulled it out of them.
Bam. So I came to Oklahoma City in 95, freshman in college, right? Came to college. It was not a nice place. It wasn't really all that nice.
I haven't been here that long. So
it was. Y'all have been to Bricktown probably recently, right? And going to Bricktown in '95 was probably one of the most scary things I did, coming from being a farm boy out of Kansas, right? I'm like, I'm going to die tonight. And it was just run down. That, you know, the Penn Square Bank bust, the oil bust of the '80s, just wrecked this city.
Right.
Wrecked it, completely wrecked it. But talk about grit, and talk about pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and talk about leadership that found a way to turn things around. The leadership and the people of the city, and then the Murrow bombing, and the people of this city have pulled themselves up by their bootstraps over and over and over again. And if you come here, if you go downtown today, if you go to Midtown, if you go to all the different parts of the city, it's vibrant and growing and beautiful. And the folks here are unbelievable. They're also really nice. There's a lot of nice folks.
True.
And the traffic isn't horrifying.
It's not.
And it is a wonderful place. We don't have the best capital. No one's going to give you $30 million to start an idea here. We don't have San Francisco, California, weird money. We don't have that. What we do have is a spirit of entrepreneurship. We have a spirit of belief in ourselves. We have a spirit of pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We have incredibly wonderful, nice people. You can make a phone call to almost anybody and they'll probably return your call. You can ask people for advice and they'll give it and they'll be sincere, and it's a wonderful place to be, and it's growing, and we're just now getting into our stride. This isn't the end of Oklahoma City, of Oklahoma, of Tulsa, of this region. This is we're just getting into our stride. Our cost of living is low. You can work for a company in Seattle and live like a king here, where if you lived in Seattle, you would live like a pauper. You would live in a 900 square foot house in a ghetto. And it's just growing, and we have one of the largest economies in the world just 2 hours south of us in Texas. And so all of that is growth capital for Oklahoma, and it's going to continue to grow, and it's a good place. It's a little hot sometimes.
It's a little hot,
but today.
So when we look at what's going on in Oklahoma City, we see a huge drive in the Innovation District.
Yeah,
they just came out with Maps 4. And we see places like Project 3810, who are creating a space for entrepreneurs, and Star Space 46 too.
Yep.
And so what else needs to happen, though? And we kind of talked about this, about pouring money not just into one thing, but like the multiple millionaires. When we talked about that, I'd love for you to speak on that.
So, and this is when Microsoft went public in Seattle, Redmond, they created 4 billionaires and 10,000 millionaires. So think about that. They pulled wealth from all over the world into that city, and it was a growth. The growth and the reinvestment was massive. It was insane. It turned that city into what it is today. So what we as a city will do and should do is continue to have a long game face on. So it's easy to say, well, we're just not investing enough. We need to do more, but we are doing more. We have this place, you have Star Space, you have people all the way back before the .com bust that were building and being entrepreneurs and getting capital and building and building and building and building and getting knocked down and pulling themselves back up. You have folks just up the street from here that the Perimeter Center, those guys built that company from nothing, from a bust and from the telecom bust, and pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and lost millions of dollars in potential equity when everything went bust, and they bootstrapped it and built themselves back up, and they sold that and have done really well. They built a world-class data center right down the street. It's incredible, right? And so that's been happening for a long time. And this isn't one of the things that I see in Oklahoma City. So Austin transformed themselves, but it was a 50-year time span. We've got to have our 20-year horizon out on. We're not going to become the tech hub, the tech capital of the Midwest or of the region in 2 years, in 5 years. We need wins. We need a win that doesn't make one millionaire that goes to the farm and kind of gives up. We need a win that makes 5 millionaires and young millionaires, people that will reinvest and build another startup and another startup and another startup. And we need a number of those. We need that continued growth, those little wins. A lot of people think the big win is I need to cash out. We need $100 million win, and that's how you transform a city. Well, that would help, but little wins build up to bigger wins and bigger wins and bigger wins and bigger wins, and that's what we need. And we need to be thinking about our kids and the place that they'll go to work and the place that the city that they'll live in and the capital and the technology and entrepreneurship environment that they will be in. That's our horizon. Our horizon's a 15, 20-year horizon. That's where our head needs to be. And we need to get wins along the way. And we need to build companies, and they don't need to be Microsofts. They need to be $10 million wins. That would help.
Yeah, no, I love that idea, and I think it's a great way to build our city.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and there's lots of folks that are investing, families and little folks that are putting wealth back into the hands of the folks that helped build the company that can build another company. That's the kind of wins. That's one of our visions from the Phase 2 side is let's just keep building, let's build stuff. Let's do Drakewell, let's do another one, let's do another one, let's do another one. Let's find ways to let the folks that are around us continue to grow, find opportunity and build wealth. That makes a ton of sense to keep doing that and do those cycles.
So when you talk about these little, growing and growing, something we've talked about is culture.
Mm-hmm.
So how within these little groups, these little companies, do they create culture?
It's a good question. And I'll start by saying culture is significant. Mm-hmm. Culture is a significant portion of the success or failure of a company, and is also one of the most subtle and hardest things to build. It's easy to miss, but it will be there. Whether you intentionally build the culture of your company or you let it happen, it will happen. And I'm come from a philosophical background, and the best culture I've seen is intentionally built cultures, where you have a deep-seated fundamental philosophy, worldview. Because at the end of the day, a culture of a company is the manifestation of the worldview of the leaders. That's at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's
Absolutely.
I believe this about the world and the people and who I am and who they are and what should happen in the world. And culture will form out of that. It will manifest out of that, whether you like it or not. And if you take a hard look at that and intentionally say, this is who we will be, this is who we're going to be no matter what, the ways that will manifest is dozens of different ways and all kinds of things. So I'll give you an example. Heath, who you know Heath, he's one of my business partners. So he and I fought for a long time about this particular thing. So one of our deep-seated cultures at both of our companies, Phase 2 and Drakewell, is people are adults, people are professionals, and they should have the freedom and autonomy to make good decisions. And so we fought about this idea of work from home or work productivity Fridays, right?
That's a big thing actually being talked about right now, is that remote work.
That remote work thing, right? Do we, or do we like everybody being here? And we fought and we fought and we fought and we fought. But how that manifested itself out is because we both believe, all three partners believe in that fundamental philosophy of people and the people that we work with. If we can't have professionals that we trust, then we shouldn't be working together. And those aren't people we want to hire. So our Productivity Fridays was a manifestation of something we all believe. It just took time for us to get to how that would manifest itself. But the culture will come out. It will come out. That belief system will come out. That is your culture. And whether you intentionally, again, if you intentionally build it or not, it's going to come out. And if you have things that are cancerous in amongst the group that's kind of amongst the leadership, that cancerous culture will come out in your organization, and it will devastate your ability to attract the top talent and keep people around and drive towards your goals.
Yeah, that's very true. So before we go to question and answer, what do you want our audience to remember about Drakewell?
What do I want our audience to remember? I think more than anything, more than even Drakewell, just remember to be gritty. Just remember. So if you really do believe in your idea and you do have people that are paying, find somebody to pay for it, and it's real, and you get the market validation, because you always want that. You always want people validating. That's when you don't give up. So, okay, you have a hobby, you're doing stuff, but if you really believe in it, be gritty. Just don't take no for an answer. Keep finding your way to build a thing, because it is so easy to give up. It's so easy to say, I'm not going to do this, I don't have what it takes, and maybe none of us do, to be honest. If you listen to any of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, they always wonder what the hell they're thinking. A lot. You question yourself a lot. Like, what am I thinking? Just keep going. Don't give up. Build something. Build something. Build something. And that's what we're doing. We're building stuff, and we're going to see if it works, and we're going to keep building more stuff and see if that works. Build something.
Yeah,
Make it awesome.
I love it. Yeah. I think that's the key is sometimes we wait too much.
You never start.
And you see people who never really get started.
It's scary.
And it's really scary, or they're saying, I can start when I have the money.
Right. No,
right?
Start now.
What can you start without the money? You know, that's where you start, and that's where the best inventions, best building happens, is when you have nothing to really build from.
Build it. Build something and see if somebody will pay for it. Whatever it is. Build a prototype. Build something. Draw some crowns on a thing and go do a presentation in front of 5 people, in front of a customer.
I've actually done that.
Yes. Draw on the whiteboard.
Crowns, actually.
Draw on the whiteboard. Do the crowns. Learn Photoshop if you have to. It doesn't matter. Just build. So go look at the presentations, the first presentation that Facebook put out there to get investment money or whatever to start getting people, and they had users, and that was growing, and so it's horrifying. It's terrible. It would look like a crown drawing, right?
Yeah.
And just build something, get momentum, just start, take that step. Yeah, you're not going to build your idea because somebody gave you money. You're going to build your idea, and if you really want to build your idea, then you're going to build your idea, and you're going to, and just do it. And do it, build it.
Yeah, no, I love it. Well, we're going to do a question and answer time. So hope you guys have questions, because tonight, debuting, I'm excited about this, is our audience mic. And thank you from The Show Starts Now Studios. You can actually throw this. But I've been told not to throw it like overhand. No
baseballs?
Yeah, I can see you guys over here. You would do that. So it's got to be like an underhand kind of toss. And you're talking it like this, not like this, like this. Those were the instructions I was told to give. So I'm excited about this tonight, and I'm excited to hear your questions as we continue this conversation. And so does anybody want to start us off with a question? Okay, well, I'm just gonna.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Hi there. So, entering a field where your product did not exist, what was your elevator pitch? What was your in?
So we spend quite a bit of time before we pitch something to think about the problem. We work with people that have those problems, ask a lot of questions, listen, and try to at least decide if we have any kind of skill in solving that. So after that, after we tried to understand the problem, then the pitch is really around value and pain. One good thing to always pitch around is pain. Pitch to the pain, right? Say, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. And if you have any kind of market backing of this is a problem and solving it equals X dollars, then that's also a good thing to throw out there. But pitch to the pain is always a good thing. People like solving things that hurt. if that's helpful.
Hey Shane, Brent Green with Rack 59. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Have you here tonight. Question for you. Understanding that different industries have cycles, and we may have another 2015, hopefully not, but how does Drakewell position itself so that it has a product or service that could follow the uptick in another industry? Is the software built so that it can be utilized in a different market, in a different field?
Sure, that's a fantastic question. That's something we've thought deeply about. In some ways, yes, but we are still small and growing, and we have zero ability to focus on anything but what we're focusing on. Because what we thought about deeply of the direction you go, because you can go relatively generic with a product and try to hit a bunch of different markets. In this case in particular, that didn't make sense because the actual where the pain lives is very specific and niche to a number of human beings that have a very dynamic and specific problem. So it didn't make sense, it doesn't make sense to us, at least at the moment, to spend a bunch of time and resources on the sales cycle, the engineering cycle, the kind of the strategy cycle of tackling another industry. What we've kind of had to do is go all in at least the oil and gas field service, and very specifically one piece of it, though our broader take on this is multiple field services. So we've specifically targeted drilling, tool rental as our first targets. Then we've got other targets like completions and flowback and production field service, and the operator side as well. So pulling up data, using the platform to service some of those needs. We've actually found, it's one of the neat things that we found kind of coming out of this, and this is a little bit, if you look at Amazon and what they did with AWS, where they actually spun up a whole brand new thing called the cloud, and out of something they were doing for themselves anyway, we found that we have a way to pitch to E&Ps, the kind of the big players, as part of our strategy, but we have much more of a complete product than we even thought as we started to talk to these guys for what they need. So that's really exciting. As part of our strategy, we didn't think we would be as far along as we are right now. But so business strategies, you do want to play all sides. It's really hard to do that and keep a small team that's focused on solving real needs for real people.
Oh, just follow up to her question.
So a follow-up to this lady's question was, using Uber disrupts taxi drivers and turns them into Uber drivers, maybe, as a metaphor, wielding that. We're making a product for parents, what will be paid for and deployed and managed by attorneys working for those parents.
Gotcha.
Attorneys think it's the other way around sometimes, but we were initially discouraged because more than 50% of the attorneys we talked to said, oh no, that's never going to fly, we don't like that. No, we don't like that at all.
Right.
And I'd call those guys the taxi cab drivers. They don't like the future that's coming for them. We think we're going to disrupt things.
Sure.
So we had about 40% Uber drivers and 60% cab drivers. Did you guys go for disruption, and did you find that negative feedback, and did you go around it, over it, through it, or are you being held back by it?
Sure. So there is absolutely some negative feedback. There's fear, a little bit of fear in the industry. We're not necessarily pitching to the disruption at the moment. That's a scary thing in an emerging in an industry that's not used to technology or whatever. Disruption's a scary thing. We're not talking about that at all.
But reduce costs, right?
Reduce costs is
not increased costs.
That's right. Pitch into the pain. So we have specific things we talk to the folks we sell to that does actually address the pain that they have. Now our strategy, our big picture is a little broader than that, but that's not what those folks will actually buy today, and so we don't talk about it, even though we think about it. It's because there's something that you mentioned there that's kind of an interesting dilemma between idea and people buying something. It's the Henry Ford thing. If I would have asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said build a faster horse, right?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, build a faster horse or whatever. But
I'll be black.
yeah, and but he still had a product that sold, and he found pain. He knew the need. He had, if you look at New York in the early 19th century, there were dead horses on every street throughout New York all the time, and it smelled awful, and there was horse manure everywhere. And so even if you think about that one pain of one city, giant city, world-class city, that there was obviously a problem and obviously a need, and so he went to that, because don't rely on your customers to have the imagination to understand where things need to be, but you do need to rely on them to understand the pain that exists and to try to solve that in a way that they pay you. And so don't ask them what the solution is, ask them what their pain is maybe a better way to say all that.
That's really good. Do you have a question?
Oh, it made it around to me. I was, my name is
You got a hold of that?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
There you go.
My name is Jabarko Gaines. I own a barber school here in Oklahoma City, and I got 9 barber shops. But the question that I like from you, sir, is, well, what you stated was keep building. And, you know, really in my whole life, I just seemed like I was always building something, and it was kind of, you know, I have to look at what my wife, and she said, oh, there you go again, you know, doing something.
Does your wife say that too? I think she does.
Yeah, so I'm like, man, so by you saying that, it just kind of resonated with my spirit. I'm like, it's not nothing wrong with me then. No. Because I'm always trying to make something better. I see, I guess what you said, don't always listen to your customers, because they don't, you have to address their pain. Yep. So I'm looking at their pain. At the same time, I'm thinking about what you're saying. When we think of market disruptors and stuff like that, you think about it, but you're like, I don't want to really say that, because in our industry, what we're trying to do, and it's barbering and styling and stuff like that, we've been used to doing appointments and going to the same person all the time. Mm-hmm. But what we came up with is something a little different with the walk-in. It's basically a walk-in app, and we're addressing people for immediate services right then within a 15-minute radius, being able to look and find. It's basically like Google, and you'll be able to scroll down, see stars and stuff, but you finding people that's available right at that moment. Gotcha. You know, within that area. But it's kind of scary when you talk about it to people, because it's like, hey, you're going to take my customers. So, but we try to keep it and try to educate people on where we think is going, like my man is that, and without scaring them away. But sure. Thank you for that advice that you said. And then I want to also ask you a question. Build, but when you finally get, like, we finally got our prototype the other day, and it's like, okay, we've been building up all this energy towards it, and now we got it, and it just, sometimes it feel like it's just like, okay, I got it now. So how do we do this? Yeah. Did you feel that? Did you go through that, or how did you feel when you get to the moments where you do reach? I mean, we got something now in hand. Yeah. We got something, so we like, okay, we've been talking about it for months, but now we got it. So where do you go from there? I mean, how do you get that? What's our next? What do we look for now? I mean, customers, I know that, but is that it? I mean, is that
so your prototype? Never think your prototype is the end game. You guys, you're not on a path that has. Don't be thinking about end game. Thinking about the next step, because if you get yourself wrapped in end game, you get yourself wrapped up in this idea. Okay, we're going to build this and we're going to do this for 5 years, and then somebody's going to come and write me a big fat check. It's not going to go that way. It's not going to happen like that. It's just not. It's not going to. Maybe they'll write it in 2, but then you're a unicorn, and unicorns are pretty rare and poop rainbows or whatever. My daughters think they do, but you're. When I say keep building and keep trying and keep going, the prototype's awesome, fantastic, congratulations. That is a wonderful place to be. You're not done. You are not even close to being done. Now you got the hard part of taking something and getting people to start paying you for it, and that's cool. That's exciting. Don't think of that as, oh man, I got to the end of the road and there wasn't gold at the end of the rainbow. That's not going to be how it works. It's, I got to go find the next rainbow and the next rainbow and the next rainbow, and just be excellent at each one of those. Just try and try and try and keep going and keep going, and that's how you're going to build it. And and be pragmatic about it too. If you say, well, I don't have the skills or this or that to do that, I don't know how to sell it, well, then either put it on hold for a bit or focus in a different direction or try to find somebody that can, then that's what you're looking for. A prototype is the start of something that you can sell, not the end, and that's exciting. You're in an exciting spot. Think of it that way. Don't feel defeated because you've got a prototype. Feel incredibly excited because now you have something that you can try to put in front of a bunch of people and pitch. See, and
we have a question over here.
Be real honest with their feedback. Just be real honest with yourself, because they may say this sucks, and you think it doesn't. But wait, if you could just see, and they won't, and nobody ever sees, and nobody's ever gonna just see. No one's ever gonna do it. You got to take that, and you got to fix it, and you got to speak back to their pain, because they're not gonna see what you see. That's okay.
That's really good advice. I think what I liked about what you said is, like, sometimes we're so passionate about what we've built that we don't hear truth from our customers.
It's true. Yep, absolutely.
And we go, well, you just don't get it, so I'm going to go talk to this guy. Well, you don't get it. I'm going to talk to this guy. And sometimes we need to stop and say, okay, I'm not addressing the pain.
Yep.
So they don't get it. But it's not on them.
Right.
It's on me.
Yep.
To address the pain. So we have another question back here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for the Feedback is a really good book, by the way, talking about what well, I'm reading it now. But I have like a lot of questions, so I'll just let you choose which topic you like the best. One is habits.
Okay.
So in general, I guess the other one is igniting your employees' entrepreneurship spirit. How do you keep your employees, but still they probably all have that entrepreneurial spirit?
So let's talk about the entrepreneurship spirit. That's not necessarily the case. Some people that are fantastic at what they do just don't have the drive or the will or the family life that they want to put their family through that stuff. It's not easy, and or for whatever, and that's okay. Everybody can have a place in building things. As an entrepreneur, as a leader, your job isn't to make them you. Your job is to make them better than you in whatever whatever they're good at. That's what you're trying to do. Especially if you're small and you're growing, you're going to take on everything, right? You're going to be sales and marketing and prototyping and building and whatever. You're going to clean, take out the trash, and all the things you have to do because it's maybe you and maybe one other person. Your end game is, as you grow, the people around you is be excellent at everything you do, and then find folks that are more excellent than you. And even if they don't have that entrepreneurship spirit, 'cause some people won't, it's okay. They're going to be excellent at what they do, and they don't have to go down that road that you're going down. It's a rare breed, and like I said before, it's a little bit masochistic. You're gonna eat a lot of pain and to get there. So if that makes some sense. Now, I think just real briefly, and I'll shut up in a second. One thing you might be saying, and I don't know if this is what you're saying, but you might be saying this, is how do you spark innovation in your company? Because innovation and entrepreneurship are different things. How do you spark innovation in folks? How do you get people to think innovatively and think in ways that where they don't give up and they don't say that's not my job? That is a culture thing. So that is a culture thing of there is no such thing as it's not my job, and that a lot of that, especially in my world, right? There's no such thing as it's not my job. That comes from a culture and leadership where you're not too good and it's always your job. And if you lead that way, but don't coddle, so lead but don't coddle, don't take everything on yourself, give up stuff, guide people, lead, then you can build those type of cultures where everybody will pitch in and do whatever they need to do, and some people won't, and maybe they're not the right fit for you. Maybe you need to part ways nicely and keep building with folks that do embrace that, especially in a small entrepreneurial company. Everybody's job is everybody's job.
Do we have one more? We'll end with one more.
Okay, so I'm following up on your question. So I have this theory, and just like I've busted on your presentation, apologies.
No, you're fine.
And I've busted in on a question. So I was in Silicon Valley for 10 years and in Los Angeles for 25 years.
Yeah.
And to say that those cultures are more aggressive than Oklahoma is a little understatement.
Yeah.
So
It's a different world out there.
Different world, and there's pluses and minuses, right?
There are.
But one of the things I miss is the candor. I miss
Sure.
someone saying, hey man, you know, you just got something nasty on your shoe. Hey, your idea sucks. There's 15 companies doing it.
Yep.
Killer. Your prototype exploded on me or whatever, you know, wipe it off. And that saves time and whatnot. And how do you feel about Oklahoma nice? Is it a parachute in the water? Is it deleterious? Is it a superpower? Is it a super strength? Is it a super weakness? Both?
Well, you can be nice and honest. Truth is the beginning of beauty, right? That you can't. That's whatever. Take that as you will.
Yeah.
Truth is,
3 beers. 3 beers later.
3 beers later, we'll keep talking about that. We'll talk about the transcendentals, but truth, you can be. One of the nicest things you can do for another human being is not to coddle them and not to sugarcoat stuff. It's to say, man, I saw this and that and this other thing, and you don't have to be a dick about it. One of the differences when I say nice in Oklahoma, it's not that you're dishonest. It's you're sincerely caring about that person, but also telling them the truth. That's an okay thing to do.
I get it.
Yeah,
being a
absolutely.
SoCal person, I used to suffer severely.
Terrible.
Yeah. You look great. It's so nice to see you. We should have lunch. Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Because that's like the most dishonest thing you can say where I'm from.
Yeah.
So where I'm getting at specifically, people say there's no startup scene here. There's no money being raised. Nobody's doing any deals. I know of 3 CEOs who have done a total of $6.71 million worth of funding in the last 90 days, but they won't announce it.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks. There's a lot of folks. I've got a buddy who raised a couple years ago raised a $10 million round, and it's here in Oklahoma. They're down in Midtown. It's happening. It's hard for one of the things we lack in Oklahoma. We don't have a publishing cycle like TechCrunch or whatever that is local here. That's one of their main jobs is to fund is to facilitate deal flow through media, right? That's one thing that Silicon Valley does really well is they publicize a lot of stuff because it encourages deal flow and encourages money coming into venture capital from all over the world to be part of the deal flow. Part of it is it's a business and it's media, right? It's making things look good. We don't have any of that. And if you have entrepreneurs and you expect them to be publishing that they are really busy. They don't care if they just raced around because they have to do something with that money and they have to not lose it and they have to not make a bunch of investors mad at them. So they're not going to sit and talk about it or go do a bunch of interviews, and that we just don't have that, and that's okay. One of these days maybe we will. You had a question back there. Did you want to? Can we take one more?
We'll take one more,
okay.
but you have to hold
Ashley.
the block. You're good.
Sorry.
You're totally good.
So, did you ever get to a state to where you felt like your sales line kind of dried up? And what did you do if you were ever in that situation?
Yeah, absolutely. It's happened in both of our businesses before where we had this amazing, beautiful pipeline and then it just went away. And you're like, where did it go? And what do I do? And what do we do? And at some points in the history, in our history, especially in both companies, we've had to say, all right, well, we've got no money coming in, or we've got a little bit of money. We still have to satisfy existing customers, and we have to cut back in places. And that's happened multiple times, and I hate it, and it's awful. But you have to be a little pragmatic, and one of your jobs as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, is to protect the enterprise. And it's not just for you, it's for the good and the sake of everybody else, is to protect the enterprise. And sometimes what that means is you have to cut in certain places. And one of the reasons that I trust and believe in my business partners is because we always cut where we can cut first. And that sucks and it hurts, and my family doesn't like anybody of that, and nobody's family does. but you cut where you can cut in your world, and then you find a way to do. And then the other thing you do, the other thing you always do is you bust your ass to try to find business. And sometimes you take on projects that you don't want or don't like, or take on things that, that stink and may not be long-term good for the business. And that's okay, as long as you know that's not good long-term. And sometimes you actually get creative and find different ways to build your business, and that's okay too. So those times will come. Probably. You're probably not on the rocket ship for the rest of the time. Even folks like Uber are not on the rocket ship for the rest of the time. There's always a reckoning, and there's always downtimes and cycles and turns. So be pragmatic, be smart, take care of your folks as well as you can, and find a way to be creative and work through. So that's. Some people give up and go to the farm or go work for somebody else. That might be, don't feel like you're an awful person if that's what happens. I encourage people not to feel bad if something fails. I've had plenty of stuff fail. Plenty of times where worked for a year and 80-hour weeks and hives were breaking out on my arms, and everything went to crap in the matter of a couple months, and I felt like everything failed, and it's going to suck and it's going to hurt and you're going to feel like dirt. But find a way to keep doing what you love, keep building stuff.
Yeah, I think that goes back to just when you say pound the pavement.
Pound the pavement.
No, but that's really what it comes down to. Like when your pipeline dries up, on the phone, knocking on doors. And that's the hard stuff.
That's hard.
That's the really hard stuff. So.
Get creative, pound the pavement.
Mm-hmm. Be creative, yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And it was an amazing night and so much insight. We got several good hashtags coming out for Startup OKC tonight. I think my favorite will be hashtag puppet hands, because that is the truth from every starting business is I have this and I need to get everybody to believe in it, but the secret is I don't have it yet.
Yep.
Right?
Got nothing. Believe me.
How do I get them to believe? So yeah, thank you for your insight. Thank you for being here tonight. Can we thank him for